Hey guys, Colton Rhodes, Hi Jungween with you here. We are going to read Chapter 9 of Skinny Bitch today. It's going to be a long one, so you're going to be here about 20 minutes, just a heads up. This is Chapter 9, Have No Faith, Governmental Agencies Don't Give a Shit About Your Health. The USDA, it's not what you think. President Abraham Lincoln founded the U.S. Department of Agriculture in 1862, when the majority of people were farmers and needed to exchange information about season crops. In other words, the USDA was created to help farmers. According to its website now, among other things, USDA is responsible for the safety of meat, poultry, and egg products. That's weird, because many high-ranking staff members of the USDA were employed by or otherwise affiliated with the meat and dairy industries. And the group responsible for the safety of meat, poultry, and egg products is run by people from the same industries they're supposed to be protecting us from. Well, that would be a conflict of interest, and it is. An enormous, ridiculous, outrageous, catastrophic conflict of interest. Yeah. One former USDA secretary was forced to resign amid charges of accepting illegal corporate gifts from 7 different companies. He was indicted on 39 felony counts, including tampering with a witness, accepting illegal gratuities, making false statements, and violating the Meat Inspection Act of 1907. Tyson Foods, one of the companies admitted giving the secretary corporate favors, were required to pay $4 million in fines to endure 4 years probation. A mere slap on the wrist, and when the USDA could have barred Tyson from selling food to military bases and schools, that would have really stung, considering Tyson sold more than $10 million worth of food to the Defense Department alone in 1996. But friends don't treat each other in that way. George Bush's Agriculture Secretary from January 2001 to January 2005, Ann Vindman, not only had ties with the company responsible for producing the controversial bovine growth hormone, BGH, but was also linked to major meatpacking corporation. The buck doesn't stop there. She employed a spokeswoman who was the former public relations director for the Cattlemen's Beef Association, a chief of staff who used to be its head lobbyist, a former president of the National Pork Producers Council, and former executives from the meatpacking industry, just to name a few. Safety last. With that in mind, it's no wonder Freedman voted a program that would test all U.S. cattle for mad cow disease. In fact, out of 35 million cattle slaughtered in 2003, USDA only tested 20,000 for mad cow disease. Japan tests all their cattle killed for human consumption. Of course, it wouldn't be in a rancher's best interest to test all of his cattle. If they were infected with mad cow disease, he wouldn't sell their meat, and he'd lose money. Heaven forbid the USDA risk a rancher's profits. So in order to appear somewhat concerned about the prevention of mad cow disease, USDA often refers to an FDA ban, which prohibits the feeding of ground-up cattle meat to live cattle. Big whoop. Banning cannibalism is a no-brainer, but why would even bother banning cannibalism if still allow the feeding of cattle blood to young calves? Stanley Prunzer, a Nobel Prize winner for his work on mad cow disease, refers to this practice as a really stupid idea. Think about it. A cow dies from mad cow disease, but no one knows because it isn't one of the 0.005714% tested. Cattle ranchers are now forbidden to grind up his dead cow and feed it to other cows, but they can give its blood to calves as part of their feed. How fucking stupid, disgusting, and dangerous is that? The USDA also likes referring to another safety program in this place called the National Animal Identification System. The NAIS is a system for identifying an animal's origin so that if its meat is found to be contaminated, it can be traced back to a specific farm. Forget testing as a preventative measure. Implement a system for someone after someone eats contaminated meat and we need a recall. Participation in this program is voluntary. Wow, the USDA sure has tough rules governing the safety of our country's meat. The USDA's website describing NAIS actually has a section on confidentiality. It reads, the NAIS will contain only information necessary for animal health officials to be able to track suspect animals and identify other animals that may have been exposed to a disease. To help assure participants that the information will be used only for animal health purposes, the information must be confidential. The USDA and its state partners will work to protect data confidentiality. What the fuck? The USDA will protect the data and confidentiality of farms that are supplying the public with contaminated meat. Why don't they just give all the ranchers blowjobs too? Many savvy consumers are catching on, and they know they cannot trust the USDA. According to the Organic Consumers Association, Lester Friedlander, a former USDA veterinarian, says he was told by USDA officials as far back as 1991 that if his testing ever found evidence of mad cow disease, he used to tell no one. He and other scientists said they know of cases where cows tested positive for the disease in laboratories but were ruled negative by the USDA. Trust no one. Illegal hormones are regularly pumped into veal calves, which are suspected of increasing growth of cancer cells in humans who eat them. The USDA has not only been accused of overlooking these practices, but also falsifying lab results, alternating records, and pressuring staff to lie about events. Even the selfish horse who eat veal don't deserve that. Business first. None of us deserve to be deceived all these years by the preposterous USDA dietary guidelines and food pyramid either. In 1998, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine filed a federal lawsuit against the USDA and Department of Health and Human Services. PCRM claimed that federal laws were violated when the USDA selected 6 out of 11 people with financial ties to various food industries to serve on the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee. The committee members' affiliations included the American Meat Institute, National Livestock and Beef Board, American Egg Board, the National Dairy Promotion and Research Program, the National Dairy Council, Dan and Company Yogurt, Mead Johnson Nutritionalist Milk-Based Infant Formulas, Nestle Milk-Based Formulas, Ice Cream, Condensed Milk, and SlimFast Milk-Based Diet Products. How dare they? On a side note, PCRM also charged that the dietary guidelines which recommend dairy products were racially biased because most non-whites are lactose intolerant. According to Johnson & Johnson, lactose intolerance affects over 50% of the Hispanic American population, 75% of Native Americans, 80% of African Americans, and 90% of Asian Americans. Why does Johnson & Johnson care about the millions of minorities suffering from lactose intolerance? Because they can target these individuals for buying Lactaid, a product they hawk for aiding in dairy digestion. Even though you're lactose intolerant and your body thoroughly rejects dairy products, eat them anyway. Just buy and take our drugs so you don't feel sick afterwards. Ugh, that just makes us sick. With rage. Got $19 billion? The milk industry does. So they've got the USDA in their back pocket. The California Milk Processor Board, CMPB, was established in 1993 to increase milk sales in California. They were responsible for the campaigns that targeted children. Got milk and milk. It does a body good. The CMPB is funded by all California milk processors but administered by the California Department of Food and Agriculture. The National Fluid Milk Processor Promotion Board, Fluid Board, conceived of the Milk Mustache campaign, which targets young adults. The USDA's Agriculture Monitoring Service administers the Fluid Board, meaning in essence, the California Department of Agriculture and the USDA are managing advertising campaigns for the milk industry under the guise of advancing health. They managed to dupe President Bill Clinton while he was in office into imposing further ads. They also had the audacity to feature the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Donna Shalala, sporting a stupid milk mustache. The Secretary of Health and Human Services. The Secretary of Health and Human Services, using her status and title to promote a commercial product, which she appeared in ads for Pepsi or Nike. Say it out loud, conflict of interest. They've even got the U.S. Surgeon General on the act. In the first ever report on the state of the nation's bones, the U.S. Surgeon General warned of impending osteoporosis crisis expected by the year 2020. In order to ward off this potential disaster, the Surgeon General's report recommended 3 glasses of milk a day. Guess who issued the report? The Department of Health and Human Services. Trust no one. Ugh. I don't even know. The horrors committed by the USDA could fill an entire book, but we shouldn't be surprised. And they don't list it as part of their primary mission statement. The USDA does admit to being committed to helping America's farmers and ranchers. The same USDA is responsible for the safety of meat, poultry, dairy, and eggs, and also promote to sell them. In fact, they even go so far as to purchase the products themselves using our tax dollars. The USDA will spend $30 million a year on beef buyouts alone, and their $30 million of our hard-earned money goes towards pork purchases. Wow, must be nice for all the industries to have the USDA bailing them out whenever they have a surplus of items. What exactly do they do with all this food that we pay for? All in a day's work. Ever hear of the National School Lunch Program? NSLP. It's a nationwide $4 billion scheme that allows the USDA to buy up all its meat, milk, and cheese with our tax dollars and then dump this crap into the bodies of more than 26 million school children. Ever wonder why school lunches are required to include milk? The NSLP directly benefits from meat, dairy, and poultry industries at the expense of our nation's children. In 1999, a ground beef plant in Texas failed a series of USDA tests for salmonella. The test showed that as much as 47 of the company's ground beef contained salmonella, a proportion 5 times higher than what the USDA regulations allow. Despite this, the fact that high levels of salmonella in ground beef indicate high levels of fecal contamination, USDA continued to purchase thousands of pounds of meat for distribution in schools. In fact, the company was one of the nation's largest suppliers for school mills, providing as much as 45% of the program's ground meat. Contamination aside, according to Michael Simon, the Center for Informed Food Choices, one evaluation of the Commodity Foods Program estimates that 70% of the items offered exceed the U.S. dietary guidelines for fat. For decades, consumer advocacy groups have been horrified by this unhealthy, profit-driven arrangement, with the backing of countless parents. Physicians and nutritionalists. They have battled to get soy milk and other healthier choices approved by the USDA for use in school lunches, but the USDA, aka the beef, pork, poultry, and dairy industries, wants no part in this, of course. The USDA has 15 food assistance programs, including ones for the elderly, homeless, military, and poor. It is estimated that 1 in 5 Americans will take part in this $41.6 billion program. Sounds like the USDA is helping to feed a lot of people, right? Right. They're feeding them fattening, unhealthy, artery-clogging, heart-stopping, acid-producing, contaminated meat, poultry, and dairy with our money. How generous. Organic or not, it's not enough that they dictate all things meat and dairy. The USDA even sticks its big nose into organic products too. In April 2004, the USDA made sweeping changes to their National Organic Program and OP standards. The new rules infuriated organic farmers and consumers because livestock were allowed to eat non-organic fish meal, even if it contained toxins or synthetic preservatives. Cows and other calves given growth hormones, antibiotics, and other drugs could still provide the public with organic milk as long as a year had passed since the drugs were administered. Pesticides could be used even if they contained unknown inert ingredients, as long as reasonable effort had been made to identify them. And seafood, pet food, clothing, fertilizers, body care products could be labeled as organic without being monitored by the USDA. Not only were people livid with the actual changes, but also with the decision-making process. By law, these types of regulatory changes are required to undergo a period of public comment before being enacted. There was no comment period, just an announcement of changes after the fact. According to Ronnie Cummins, National Director of Organic Consumers Association, OCA, rather than comply with regulations which uphold the integrity of organic food, corporate-run factory farms who want a piece of the $11 billion a year organic industry are manipulating the USDA in contrast to change the rules to their toxic industrial style of farming, allowing non-organic and potentially genetically engineered feed to be included in their definition of organic is a major setback to the integrity of what is the fastest growing sector of the food industry in this country. Thanks to the phone calls, letters, emails, and faxes of many pissed off consumers, the USDA reversed all these changes in May 2004. Even so, many people are still mistrustful of the USDA. Nonprofit group the Center for Food Safety, CFS, claims that the USDA may be allowing sham certifiers under the umbrella of the National Organic Program, NOP. Their suspicions were aroused by the high volume of certifications issued within a short time. These worries were heightened when the USDA refused to provide CFS with requested documents, even though they were required to do so under the Freedom of Information Act. Other environmental groups, along with the OCA, have joined a lawsuit against the USDA. Among their complaints was the fact that USDA's NOP created an additional category of certified products which directly opposes legislation put in place by Congress, they state. When Congress has spoken clearly on the subject, USDA has no discretion to rewrite the statute, making exceptions that dilute the standards of the Act. Can you believe the nerve of these USDA fuckers? Going against the law created by our elected officials and making up their own rules. It's fucking mutiny. It is what it is. Trust no one. When buying organic foods, look for certification from anyone other than the USDA. Oregon Tilth, California Certified Organic Farmers, Marin Organic Certifying Agency, and Demeter Certified Biodynamic are all reputable. Sometimes the product will be certified organic by the USDA and another party, so don't rule it out just because the USDA certifies it. Surely you've seen the Organic Horizon brand of dairy products in your grocery store. It's the nation's largest supplier of organic dairy products. Well, it just so happens that Horizon has been accused of violating organic standards. The Cornucopia Institute, a watchdog group in support of organic agriculture, filed 2 complaints with the USDA. They allege that 2 major farms that supply Horizon with milk are confining cows in an industrial setting and denying them access to a pasture, but they are still calling their products organic. Why is this allowed to happen? Don't our elected officials know what's going on? Why don't they try to stop this? Some do, but many politicians are abed of the evil industries. McDonald's alone has made close to $2 million campaign contributions. National Cattlemen's Beef Association nearly $1.5 million, and the National Restaurant Association more than $3.1 million. Hate to sound like a broken record player, but trust no one. Is everyone in the FDA on drugs? This greed-induced immorality isn't capable just to Congress or the USDA. The Food and Drug Administration, FDA, is a pathetic facade? Facade? I don't know. Facade. Maybe. I'm bad at words. 2. In 1990, the Monsanto company sought FDA approval for Posiliac, a commercialized form of bovine growth hormone used to increase a cow's milk production. Even though the test study linked the hormone to prostate and thyroid cancer, the FDA still approved Posiliac, of course. These damning test results weren't made available to the public until 1998, when a group of scientists conducted an independent analysis of the study. They found that the FDA never even reviewed Monsanto's findings. More recently, BGH has been linked to increased levels of insulin growth factor, a cancer promoter, but the FDA has no interest in these findings either, or the fact that both the World Trade Organization and the United Nations Food Standards Body refused to endorse the hormone safety, and they certainly don't mind that BGH milk is banned in all of the European Union, Canada, Japan, and other industrialized countries in the world. Fucking dumbasses. Why would the FDA knowingly allow cancer-causing hormones to supply into our milk? One theory highlights the fact that the FDA deputy commissioner at the time of the Posiliac approval was a former Monsanto lawyer, and during his tenure at the FDA, the same commissioner wrote the policy exempting BGH from special labeling, yet fingers also point to a former top scientist with Monsanto, who was hired by the FDA to review her own research conducted while she was working for Monsanto. This little beauty was also allowed a 100-fold increase in antibiotic residues in milk. Fear not, the FDA's bad behavior isn't singular to the dairy industry. It also has a sketchy history with monosodium glutamate, MSG. One former FDA commissioner testified before the Senate Select Committee on Nutrition that MSG was safe, citing 4 sources. It was later discovered that 2 of the studies were non-existent and the other 2 were incomplete. Secrets and lies. It's just too much to bear. So let's play the I'm not telling game. Ever see the words natural flavors on food packaging ingredients list? That's because the FDA allows companies to be vague and doesn't require them to tell us exactly what we're eating. The FDA has a list of approximately 300 foods that meet a standard of identity, meaning companies aren't required to spell out their ingredients. For example, ice cream manufacturers can use of 25% additives without listing them in their ingredients. Who wants to put something in his or her body without knowing what it is? By now, Chapter 9, you better fucking not. It's in the book, I'm sorry. You are your only chance. If you want to get skinny, you can only rely on yourself. If you adapt only one practice from this book, let it be this. Read the ingredients, forget counting carbs, adding calories, and multiplying fat grams. Just read the ingredients. It doesn't matter how many calories or carbs or fat grams something has, it just doesn't matter. You don't need the government's asinine recommended daily allowances, RDA, to tell you how to eat. Just read the ingredients. If they're healthy, wholesome, heard, dive in. There is refined sugar, white, bleached flour, hydrogenated oils, any animal products, artificial anything, or some scary-looking word that you don't know, don't eat it. We can't make it any simpler. Just read the ingredients and completely ignore all the other jibber-jabber bullshit the government calls for on the packaging. Fuck them. Trust no one. Get skinny. And no matter what, do not fall prey to clever advertising used on the packaging. The companies that call their products wholesome or nutritious can be the same ones that add hydrogenated oils, artificial flavors, or synthetic preservatives. Just read the ingredients of everything you buy. It's not a big deal, assuming you're literate. Which I'm barely literate. There is so much bureaucracy and red tape surrounding health-related government agencies that you are much better off fending for yourself. After all, why would anyone take nutritional advice from organizations that color dyes, hydrogenated oils, chemical preservatives, and artificial flavors into the food we eat? Still going. The EPA makes us sick. Starlink corn, a genetically modified organism, contains an insecticidal protein deemed unsafe for human consumption. But the Environmental Protection Agency allows for the use of Starlink and for livestock feed. Let humans eat the animals who eat the corn. That's safe. Duh. Clearly nothing is sacred to the group that allows rocket fuel in our milk supply. Yeah, you heard right. Rocket fuel in milk. Thanks to the Pentagon, ammonium perchlorate is the main explosive component in rocket fuel. It has been lurking around our environment for decades. It finds its way into our water used for growing feed crops for cattle. Cows eat those contaminated crops, with the result of being contaminated milk. Whether you're drinking milk or eating dairy products made with this milk, you're ingesting perchlorate. The EPA actually makes allowances for a provisional daily safe dose. We're sorry, But where from Earth, there is no acceptable amount to ingest where explosive components are concerned. Even if you may believe any amount to be safe, tests revealed milk perchlorate levels well above the EPA's index. Studies conducted by the Environmental Working Group, a non-profit, non-partisan organization, found every single milk sample tested in Texas to be contaminated. California's own Food and Agriculture Department found that milk off the grocery shelves had 5 times the EPA's safe dose of perchlorate. But of course, the California Food and Agriculture Department did not release these results. Instead, they were brought to light by the EWG. Although both the dairy industry and government agencies acknowledged that there could be some health risks associated with perchlorate, they maintain that we should keep drinking milk for its calcium, protein, and minerals. We'll let you use your own hips for this one. Regardless of your political affiliation, please know this. The Bush administration continuously asks for exemptions on behalf of the military and chemical companies, allowing them to continue this contamination and to shirk responsibility for cleanup. In fact, the Bush administration's EPA has been widely criticized on many accounts of environmental pollution that affect our food and water supply. Like the USDA's pathetic voluntary program, the EPA has its own version of letting agribusiness trample over public health and safety. Collaborating closely with the U.S. Poultry and Egg Associations, the National Pork Producers Council, NPPC, the EPA developed a voluntary air monitoring program. Disregard the notion that the EPA blames factory farming for 73% of all ammonia fumes from all the shit and piss of farm animals released into the air nationwide. Never mind the fact that the EPA names the factory farming to be the single largest contributor to polluted American waterways. Factory farmers do not have to submit to EPA monitoring programs. If it pleases them, they can volunteer. How civilized. Outraged by the EPA's lack of enforcement, opponents point out the factory farming industry made $3.6 million in campaign contributions, benefiting mostly Republican federal candidates. The NPPC even went as far as President Bush with his Friend of the Pork Producer Award in 2004, thanking him for his help in shaping environmental policies impacting agriculture. Yeah, thanks for that. Trust no one. Like, this is the book saying this like 100 times, I don't know. Trust no one. Whether you love him or hate him, President Clinton's administration tried to implement a tough science-based food inspection system, according to Eric Schlossner, I don't know, best-selling author of The Fast Food Nation. Sad to say, however, these attempts were squashed when the Republican Party gained control of Congress in 1994. Schlosser revealed the meatpacking industry's allies in Congress worked hard to thwart modernization of the nation's meat inspection system. A great deal of effort was spent denying the federal government any authority to recall contaminated meat or impose civil fines on firms that knowingly ship contaminated products. The Clinton administration backed legislation to provide the USDA with the authorities to demand meat recalls and impose civil fines on meat packers. But Republicans in Congress failed to enact not only that bill but also similar legislation for 4 consecutive years. Under current law, the USDA cannot demand a recall of contaminated meat. Can you fucking believe this? If a company decides to voluntarily recall contaminated meat, it is under no legal obligation to inform the public or even health officials that a recall is taking place. Now, we don't mean to say that everyone is working for the government is evil. Sure, there are some decent, caring, moral, intelligent, well-intentioned people working for the FDA, EPA, USDA, and Bush administration. One former staff attorney and turned environmentalist said the EPA hasn't initiated one investigation in 4 years. They're not doing anything. See? She's a good guy. She finked on the FDA. Unfortunately, many of the good guys seem to get lost in the shuffle of politics and greed within these groups. So do yourself a favor and trust no one. Read ingredients, ignore everything else, and if you're totally incensed by what you've just learned, or do something. Contact your representatives, senators, the president, and vice president, and demand reform of these crooked self-serving agencies. Go to www.congress.org and send a quick email to these politicians. While you're at it, write a letter to the editor of your favorite magazine or newspaper. Ask others to join the crusade. Visit www.congress.org and click on Media Guide to access their contact information. Alright guys, that is it for Chapter 9. It was a long one. It was a doozy. There were some tough words. I mispronounced some names. Looks like we are going to be going over Chapter 10, and I can read. It is called Don't Be a Pussy, which I love. See you in the next one. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day.